Good morning, everyone here in the US, and good afternoon, everyone in Europe. Thank you for joining us today. We have a panel to discuss the first 45 days of Germany's Pillar 1 cannabis reform. We have three speakers. One of them will be joining us shortly. We have the CEO of Cantourage, Philip Schetter, and we have the CFO of Grünhorn, Sven-Roger von Schilling. We're also waiting for Niklas Kouparanis, CEO of Bloomwell Group, to join us shortly. But I have there the slide with the names of the speakers. Before we start, I'm just going to make a quick introduction here for those of you listening in. We are also broadcasting this, we are recording this Zoom video, right? We expect it to last about 50 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on Q&A. We're also broadcasting it via Spaces in Twitter, right? So some of you have joined via the Zoom video, but the audio is also available in Spaces right now simultaneously as we speak. So anyway, welcome to both of you, and I'll start with you, Philippe. If you can make an introduction about Cantourage and maybe also briefly on the personal side, how you came to cannabis, how you came to Cantourage. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Maybe real quick. So I work for Cantourage. We're a listed company. So what do we actually do? So we import, manufacture, and wholesale cannabis. And we also run a telemedicine platform in Germany and a private cannabis clinic in the UK. As of today, we employ 80 to 90 people, 20 in our headquarters in Berlin, another 30 in our manufacturing hub. Also in Germany, another 10 for our telemedicine platform in Germany, and 20 people, roughly 20 people are working for us in the UK. As of today, we're active in 7 European countries where we sell flower, dronabinol, and cannabidiol and extracts. I think our claim to fame was our flower business. We came up with a rather unique operating model, which allows us to source cannabis from around the world, manufacture it here according to GMP, and then sell it all over Europe. As of today, we have roughly 65 growers under contract out of 18 countries. I think the most popular ones are Lot 420, Green Carrot, Miracle Valley, Plantas en Ceres, and a few others. Very happy to have them on board because at the end of the day, they're doing the hard work, which is actually growing cannabis, and we take care of the rest. And maybe just real quick in terms of financials, I can't tell you too much about it being a listed company, but good news is we just released our financial statement yesterday, so I can talk about the past. So before we went public in November 2022, we raised in total 10 million euros, and currently our market valuation is roughly between 80 to 100 million. And last year we did 24 million euros in revenues, and we are, in terms of EBITDA, break even. Bit of glimpse into what happened this year. The only number I'm allowed to share is our April number. In April, compared to April 2023, we grew by 160%. Just to maybe give you the lay of the land for our upcoming discussion. So there's lots and lots going on, especially in Germany, but also the UK, Poland, other European markets. I think the bubble is about to burst. Heavy demand. So core challenge for us these days is coming up with the supply. Lucky us, we have those 60 plus growers under contract. But then the bottleneck currently is the manufacturing, which is currently what we're doing. That's our homework.
Right. Well, that's good. Thank you for that introduction, Philip.
Just real quick, before I joined Cantourage, I was the managing director of Aurora Europe. Built the European platform for Aurora. Also had to build a few cultivation manufacturing facilities here in Europe. So also just the cultivation side, very capital intensive. Operation complexity can't be underestimated. Hence, at Cantourage, we focus on import, manufacturing, wholesale, not on the cultivation bit.
All right. Thank you, Philip. Sven, please go ahead.
Thank you for having me, Pablo. I'm representing Grünhorn Group. Grünhorn Group consists of a couple of things. Foremost, a cannabis brand. Secondly, one of Germany's largest wholesalers specialized on medical cannabis. And thirdly, a services company which supports bricks and mortar companies in running online pharmacies focusing on medical cannabis. And these online pharmacies, or the online pharmacy, is also being run under the brand of Grünhorn. We went into business in 2020, 2021. We have quickly grown to become by far the largest German cannabis company. Last year, we had more than 30 million revenue, almost 120,000 in prescriptions that were handled by us. We're based in Leipzig, 2 hours south of Berlin. We have very ambitious scale-up plans. That's why I joined the company half a year ago, to support Stefan Fritsch, our CEO and founder, in our ambitious scale-up plans. And to me personally, I used to be the CFO of a number of tech companies from 2000 to 2010 in the IT services space, IT software space, clean tech space, almost all of them listed companies. I IPO'd 2 of those companies. In 2010, I IPO'd Germany's second SPAC, which I de-SPAC'd in 2012. And before I joined Grünhorn, I used to be a corporate finance advisor, advising ambitious scale-up companies on capital raisings, IPOs, M&A, etc.
Thank you, Sven. Niklas, thank you for joining us. So, Niklas, we're just here making introductions. Philippe spoke about Cantourage himself. Sven also did. So here, just tell us about Bloomwell Group, and also a bit about yourself and how you came to cannabis and to Bloomwell. Thank you.
Yes, sorry guys for the delay. Just managed to log in via
That's
the phone.
fine.
So happy to join you guys. Niklas Kouparanis, co-founder and CEO of Bloomwell Group, one of the first in the medical cannabis space in Germany. It's my 7th year now. Serial entrepreneur in the space. Helped build 3 companies, and currently CEO of Bloomwell Group.
Very
Thank
good.
you for having me.
No, thank you. So look, I'm going to have some questions for the audience. Again, this is being recorded in Zoom. It's also, the audio is also available in Spaces. We have a number of questions we're going to get through. The way it works, I take your questions by email or through the chat room here in the Zoom. You can also put them on the Twitter feed. So here I'm going to have some questions specifically for some of you and some in general. But this one is for all of you, and I'll start with you, Philippe. I want to read a few questions, but the big picture question is, what changes have you seen after April 1st? Assume that everyone on this line is familiar with Pillar 1 and the reform aspects. You know, some of the things that we'd like all of you to cover is, you know, what's driving, what type of demand growth have you seen over the last 45 days? You know, what's driving that demand? Is it more patients, more doctors prescribing, or the same doctors prescribing more? Which type of pharmacies are benefiting? You know, other reasons driving the growth? You know, have we seen any slowdown? Did the market slow in March, February ahead of the reform Pillar 1 start? And whether you are seeing any bottlenecks. So I know there's a lot there to cover, but the idea is you're going to try to address those issues as we discuss, you know, the first 45 days of Pillar 1. Philippe, I'll start with you. Thank you.
So we see, let's say, massive growth. I think basically across the board, talking to pharmacies, talking to telemedicine players, talking to manufacturers. So most of the players in the market do see growth up to 100% or even more. I just mentioned, so we grew by 160% in April. So it's just massive demand. What's driving that demand is, I mean, what you just mentioned is all of the above. It's more doctors, it's more patients, it's new patients. Lucky us, it's not just let's say a single driver. There's numerous drivers actually supporting that growth. There's also now new business models popping up here and there, further easing the access for patients to get a prescription. So it's a whole new world, I'd say. And at the end of the day, to me, it was also a bit of marketing at the end of the day, because I've also been active in cannabis since 2017, 2018. I was still surprised that not lots of people actually knew that you can get cannabis out of a pharmacy without being terminally ill. And on April 1st, I mean, everybody talked about it. It's all over mainstream media, and people do understand it's not that challenging anymore to get a prescription. And I think that's driving market growth across the board. And these days, So you're looking at lots of smiling faces here. Everybody's benefiting these days. It's just a massive, massive growth.
That's good. Sven, same question for you.
Likewise, a massive increase in demand due to the increased easiness of access to medical cannabis. A significant number of new players having entered the market, in particular in the space of the teleclinics. Companies we had never heard of before were suddenly there on April 2nd with a substantial number of prescriptions. Significant challenges for the pharmacies. The pharmacies, from our point of view, are definitely going to be the bottleneck. There is enormous amounts of material out there in the market, high quality material. There is enormous demand. And the bottleneck will be the execution to really work on these magistral formulation prescriptions, because they are burdensome, and that's going to be the challenge for the entire industry. Can we significantly increase the output capacity of all the pharmacies dealing with medical cannabis? Something else that we've experienced in that regard, which was really interesting to us in working together with teleclinics. The new teleclinics popping up have a very cooperative understanding of running a business, are very open to requirements that we as an execution partner or as a pharmacy have. So there's a lot of dynamics going on in the industry right now. Price competition for the product and price competition in the teleclinics. I expect there's going to be a shakeout over the next 4 to 5 months. Very dynamic, very interesting times.
Thank you. Niklas, go ahead. Same question for you.
Great question, Pablo, by the way. I disagree a little with my colleagues that talked before me, because I mean, yeah, it is deregulation on the one hand side, but obviously, and that is the reason why we have founded Bloomwell in June 2020. You also need to scale the market, and you need companies that basically are scaling the market. Otherwise, it will not solve. The market will not scale by itself, and that's why we have built Bloomwell over the last 4 years. Not only as a telemedicine provider, but basically as the home for medical cannabis, the digital home for medical cannabis, to scale all involved stakeholders, not only to get the patient access to the treatment digitally efficient and fast, but also to get doctors a operating system which is efficient and fast and digital for them in order to treat a lot of patients. And also pharmacies, the same, to have inventory management, because I agree with Sven on this point. Pharmacies definitely are the bottleneck. That's why we thought under Bloomwell, and we prepared 4 years for this new regulatory framework, is that a marketplace solution is something what the market needs, because you need multiple pharmacies, you need multiple hands in order to scale a market like we are seeing right now, because the patient numbers will go into millions. That's what we are saying. And obviously also the last but not least, the fourth stakeholder that needs to participate here is the wholesalers, because what we're seeing in the market is, before we had a model like Bloomwell, we were the first and we are the biggest in the telemedicine space and in the pharmacy market space. The medical cannabis market was very fragmented and not digital at all. You had wholesalers that, you know, still got orders via fax from pharmacies. You had pharmacies that really didn't have digital infrastructure. You had doctors not working efficient in small practices. So very fragmented small business market. And yes, what we're seeing now, the tremendous growth that we are seeing now is paying off because companies like Bloomwell did the work and basically are able to scale the market now. We grew roughly around 1,000% throughout all our KPIs, 14 times in terms of patient registration numbers. That is something what Philip and other wholesalers in the market obviously are participating of, and we are happy to do that for the industry.
And you said 1,000%, like comparing April and March, is that what you meant?
Yes, yes. Average numbers pre-reclassification.
All right, thank you. Look, I'm going to ask each one of you here to make some predictions, right, about where this market is going. But before I read my questions, and for the audience, right, as you know, I've been doing a lot of work on the cannabis industry globally for quite a few years. I want to show a slide here about Israel, right? This is Israel in, call it December 2018, January 2019. About 30,000 patients, about 0.3% of the population in the program. That was a reform that made it easier to prescribe cannabis, but nowhere as easy as in Germany now with April 1 reform. And you saw this uptick from January 2019. You know, the market grew about 5 times from January 2019 to now, to pretty much these are numbers for the first quarter of 2024. So right now, Israel, it's around 1.5 patients, at about 1.5% of the population. In Germany, we calculate, although the data is not perfect, right? We calculate that before April 1, the industry was probably around 200,000 patients, right? Which would mean around, call it 0.25, 0.3%. So in my opinion, right, Germany is like here. It took about 5 years for Israel to get to 1.5% here. But in the case of Israel, with a lot of restrictions, right? The law in Israel has only changed now on the 28th of March. And we expect also the companies there expect significant growth in the market going forward. But just to give some context, and of course, the speakers here, I want to hear their opinion. To give some context, the reform, in my opinion, that we are seeing in Germany on the medical side is a lot more liberalized than what you've seen in Israel over the last 5 years. So we keep thinking that this type of uptick that you see in Israel, you should see something like what Niklas was talking about, perhaps potentially in Germany, because we are around 0.3%. So sorry about that long comment on my side, but that's Israel. So just going back to the panel here, in terms of the question that I want to, and I'll start with you, Sven, you know, it's like, okay, so let's make some predictions. Where are we in terms of the market size in 6 months' time? And then, you know, by, call it late 2025. That's a question in terms of, you know, what do you project in terms of growth for the market? And we typically think in terms of population penetration, right? Numbers of patients per month. Also related to that, and these are all questions for all of you, you know, what do you think is going to be the impact of home growth and even social clubs in the next 3-4 months? I mean, I saw that Alfredo Pascual put something in Twitter, right? That a survey had shown that 7% of Germans had already bought seeds, and another 11% were planning to buy seeds, right, from home growth. You know, another question, could decriminalization result in many illicit stores opening, as we have seen in New York City? I mean, is Berlin going to look like Manhattan? You know, what will happen with product pricing and patient prescriptions economics? Will they get better, improve, or become more competitive? I'm gonna stay the questions on predictions there, and then separately, I guess I'll include all, let's stay on that. I mean, of course, I want to talk about Pillar 2 and what happens after the next election, but let's just stay with those predictions on the medical program, Pillar 1. I'll start with you, Sven. I know that's a lot there. Thank you.
Well, let me get back to your first question. I believe that's the most important question. What kind of uptake do we anticipate for Germany? There's one hard figure out there in the market about the market size. There's a lot of talk about market size, etc., but there's one hard, reliable figure. The BfArM required all pharmacies up until Q3 last year to report all the quantities of medical cannabis that they bought in order to sell it on to patients. In 2022, the market was approximately 14.8 tons. The first 9 months in 2023 were 14.1 tons. BfArM did not release any figures on Q4. Now, I believe, or we believe, that the purchased material by pharmacies in 2023 was approximately 19 to 20 tons. That is the amount that was sold to patients. We, the Grünhorn group, we bought more than 20% of that. We are, and that's what we hear from all the other wholesalers or producers we deal with, we are by far the largest buyer of medical cannabis. We are by far the largest pharmacy in the market. We are the largest pharmacy because we have an operation that you see in my background picture. We have an almost fully automated process to handle these magistral formulation prescriptions. That's why I'm saying the pharmacies are the bottleneck. It is very difficult for pharmacies to really scale their output. You can ultimately only do it if you have an automated process. And we are in the position to double our output in H2 this year and the second half of this year. Now, you asked me about my anticipation for 2024 and 2025. I believe it may be possible to increase the sales to on the basis of prescriptions from approximately 20 tons in 2023 to maybe 30 tons in 2024. I don't think that more is going to be possible because the typical bricks and mortar pharmacy doesn't have the capacity. Now, looking 1 year more down the road until 2025, I could envision that we may go up to 40 tons, 45 tons, but I wouldn't expect much more. We're going to upscale our operation. We're going to install more fulfillment lines like the one you see in my background picture. That will allow us to go up to somewhere to a very significant 6-digit figure for sending out packages or dealing with prescriptions. But that's going to be very, very tough for anyone else to do that. So the pharmacies are the bottleneck to growth.
Sven, before I move on to Philippe, can you maybe explain what do you mean by the pharmacies being the bottleneck? I mean, there's supply from overseas coming in. There's a lot of wholesalers, right? And maybe just the detail. What's a complication?
I'm happy to do that. All the prescriptions for medical cannabis have to be dealt with in a manual way because you need to take care of the dosage. All the prescriptions say 15 grams, 12 grams of whatever. So it needs to be handled manually. It takes on average 20 minutes or so to deal with one prescription, and only trained or licensed pharmacists are allowed to do that. Even though the 4 of us could easily pick 15 grams from a large flower and restock it into a different jar, we're not allowed to do it. The manual labor the manual labor and resources for that are very, very restricted. Now, you can only get efficiency into the process if you take a licensed pharmacist to supervise, kind of like that fulfillment line you see in the back of my picture. So there are scarce resources out there in the market to scale up the manual process. If you want to install such a fulfillment line, you have order lead times to get the machinery. You can't buy it off the shelf. You have to program your own control software program to run the entire line. It will take some time to really scale up the output in Germany.
But I'm sorry to stay here with you, Sven, but that should give an advantage to companies like Grünhorn, right? I understand for small family-owned, small pharmacies, apotheques, they have that challenge. But somebody with scale on the online side?
That is absolutely true. The gap between us and the other pharmacies in Germany will increase or will broaden significantly over the next 18 to 24 months.
Thank you. Philippe, I'll go to you now with the same question, please. Your predictions.
Yeah, also, I mean, looking back at the chart you just showed, I foresee similar growth here in Germany. The market could triple or quadruple in the next couple of years. So it won't happen overnight. But I think it's on the horizon, triple or quadruple the market in the next 3 to 4 years. And we'll see what the bottleneck actually is. For the time being, it's definitely the pharmacies, because there's lots of prescriptions, and it's about execution these days. But we also see that, for example, also our inventories, even though we're one of the largest, we're not the largest manufacturer here, we're depleted. So these days it's also hunting for product and product supply, especially in, let's say, special products. So lucky as we can source from a lot 420 or from Grünhorn, those products are obviously in high demand, and they can't scale up production also in a heartbeat. So I foresee it's going to be ebbs and flows. On the one hand, it's the bottleneck, it's the pharmacies, and in a couple of weeks' time, it's all about the product, and it will be back to the pharmacies. So it's about really building a strong and a sustainable ecosystem where importers, manufacturers, wholesalers, and pharmacies work closely together in order to fill the demand. So it's about partnerships. It's about building ecosystems at the end of the day to really build that market. we're trying to do our best in terms of product and also in terms of our telemedicine. We also need to work closely together with pharmacies like Grünhorns or a few of the other pharmacies that are around.
Right, but Philippe, maybe if you expand on your supply, go on, sorry.
Maybe also important to note what we also see since April 1st, there's also new pharmacies popping up, by the way. It becomes more localized or regionalized. So a couple of years back, it was just 10, 15 major pharmacies. And now it's lots of pharmacies that are actually entering the game. So it's people don't want to wait for a package to arrive at their doorstep. They really want to go into a pharmacy and pick their product up. So we also see that lots of smaller pharmacies are now popping up. Remains to be seen whether they can build a sustainable business at the end of the day, because it's quite costly.
But these smaller pharmacies are like cannabis. These smaller pharmacies are cannabis dedicated, pretty much. I mean, these.
No, these are basically your corner pharmacies. So the normal pharmacies who are now interested in also dispensing cannabis. Right. That window of the situation that there's money to be made. So it's new, smaller pharmacies now entering the game. Remains to be seen whether they can do it in an efficient manner in order to also make some cash at the end of the day. But these days they're entering the market. We'll see in 6 to 9 months whether they're still in the market, because as Sven just mentioned, it's rather challenging from an operational perspective, and it's rather costly to dispense cannabis. And if you do that at a small scale, maybe it's not worthwhile. But it remains to be seen. So these days, there's lots of cannabis pharmacies, smaller cannabis pharmacies popping up. We'll see.
Yeah, Philippe, I want to stay with you on the supply chain. I think you mentioned 18 countries, 60 suppliers. Talk about that. I mean, are all those suppliers EU GMP, or pretty much you're importing from them and EU GMP in Germany or in other parts of Europe? The fact that you have so many suppliers, of course, that gives you a lot of flexibility, but I hear the consumer wants consistency of supply, right? So how do you manage that if you have so many different suppliers? Just talk more about your supply chain and how that may be an advantage or not.
Yeah, so we source basically cannabis. It's not GMP yet. So we take care of the EU GMP manufacturing here in Germany. So we start off with the drying, the trimming, the microbiological load reduction. So all the EU GMP manufacturing steps we're performing in-house here in Germany. So hence, we can basically partner with any legal grower out there that qualifies for a shipment to Europe or to Germany. So hence, we could build up that network of cultivation partners. As mentioned, we have more than 60 currently under contract, under long-term contract. Out of the 60, maybe 10 to 15 are already active. So there's more to come in the near future. Most of them are now reliable, consistent partners, also with a, let's say, excellent reputation these days in the German market. And it also allows us to cater to any current or future patient or consumer demand, because it's also, we just mentioned, it's highly dynamic. We don't know what the patient wants in 2 to 3 months' time.
Right.
But we're quite flexible in the talk to a grower out of South Africa or New Zealand or Australia. If they have something exciting new, we should bring to the table. And then if the market zigs, we can definitely also zig, because we're super flexible in terms of sourcing the needed cannabis. Okay, look, I want to stay with you, Philip, for 1 second. So one thing that we always ask is about barriers to entry, right? Because it seems that you have access to so many suppliers. I could say, well, those suppliers maybe could also partner with other importers to bring in the product to Germany and sell it to the pharmacies. I mean, maybe explain it, is it that simple? I'm trying to, or people like Curaleaf, they just walk in and they buy 420 Pharma and they have access to the market. Just talk about barriers to entry. I mean, and how secure is your position in your opinion? I mean, somebody saying in Canada, you know what, I'm going to go to ICBC Berlin, find an importer and I'm in business. Is it that simple? At the end of the day, I mean, usually the missing link is the EU GMP manufacturing. But so we were the first ones on the market, but now there's a few other players offering that kind of service. But at the end of the day, it's those tiny details that mean so much. As we came up with a new method to reduce the microbiological load without using irradiation. So if you irradiate the product, you need to have special permits and licenses that sets you back another 12 to 18 months before you can actually enter the market. So we came up with a rather unique model. As soon as you sign a contract with us, you're in a German pharmacy within 6 to 9 months. So it's super quick to get into the market if you partner with us. It's tiny special details along the value chain that are really important in order to get to the market quick, I'd say.
Understood.
And on the one hand, it's the manufacturing bit, and it's cool to have product you could theoretically sell in Germany, but at the end of the day, then you still need to sell it. And here we have, on the one hand, a dedicated sales team that has been around in the German or European cannabis scene since 2017 to 2018. So we know what to do. So we're known for moving massive units. Because at the end of the day, you still need to sell it.
Yeah.
And then need to know the larger pharmacies. You need to partner with telemedicine players in order, at the end of the day, get the product to patients. So
Understood. Thank you.
Just to get GMP certified flower, you still need to move it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Philip. So Niklas, staying on the question of predictions, and maybe as you talk about your predictions, remind people about the business model of Bloomwell, right? It's not just clinics, right? It's a group. You're quite vertically integrated. And if you may, also your prediction in terms of the impact from the social clubs and people buying seeds to grow at home.
100%. Thank you, Pablo. So if we look at numbers from the US, and I think the reclassification or deregulation in Germany can be more compared to US states like Florida or California back in the days than to Israel. We see 7 to 10% of the population basically qualifying for medical cannabis and pursue a medical cannabis treatment. If we do the math here for Germany, it's around 5 to 7 million total addressable market in Germany. From the indication that we have treated over the last 4 years through telemedicine, we see a total addressable market of roughly 30 million in Germany, 84 million inhabitants. I mean, not all of them will consume cannabis, but I believe, conservatively speaking, we will see a market over the next years of around 5 million in medical cannabis patients. Obviously, that needs also companies involved, and I agree with Philip. It needs ecosystems. It needs the industry working together. Otherwise, we cannot scale, and that's exactly what Bloomwell is doing, Pablo. As Bloomwell Group, like I've said before, we are basically elevating the whole industry by combining all stakeholders on one platform and making them work together efficiently in order to scale. Otherwise, we cannot solve the bottlenecks also that Sven talked about of the pharmacies, for example, that cannot be handled by one pharmacy in Germany. We need multiple in order to get to 5 million patients in Germany, because that is our goal, right? So what we're doing with Bloomwell is, first of all, onboarding the patient, top of funnel, most important. And just to get back to Sven, because he said we are overwhelmed by prescriptions from other telemedicine players that just popped up. I mean, we all know what they're doing, and this is, I would say, an open secret. Is pretty shady, right? To be quite honest, they're sending around PDF documents with some signature of a doctor that go to the pharmacies, and the pharmacies have the responsibility then, if they fulfill it, to make sure that this is a proper prescription. We have developed, for example, the e-prescription together with the Bundesdruckerei, which is a German authority, and that is something which is obviously compliant with German law, and that will make the difference over time. So we need to be careful here. Also, big notice for all the pharmacies out there: be careful which prescription you are taking at the moment, because these new telemedicine providers that popped up in the space are quite shady, and I don't think that will be a long-term partnership that pharmacies should have with these pharmacies providers. Just to make a remark here. But as Bloomwell, like I've said, we are on board the patient. We are generating the demand, basically getting patients into the funnel for wholesalers like Cantourage, and we are also giving the patient the possibility on our platform to hand in the digital prescription, certified by the Bundesdruckerei, by the German authority, to one of the pharmacies that we have listed on the platform. The pharmacies, and that's why I talk about all the pharmacies in Germany and not only one pharmacy. It is important to make them scalable, and that's why they need digital infrastructure. They need inventory management, which we have built in the back end of Bloomwell. They have their own login on the Bloomwell platform, and we were able to scale little brick and mortar pharmacies pretty fast in a couple of months to up to 4,000 to 5,000 orders a month. I don't know what Bloomwell is doing at the moment, but we definitely have a capacity now on the Bloomwell ecosystem of 500 to 600 kgs, starting from next month, that we can basically push through the platform and use the dedicated pharmacies that we have onboarded in the Bloomwell ecosystem, because we make them scale. We educate them, we give them the infrastructure to scale, and I think that is important for the market in order to grow. Doctors the same. I don't think that because we reclassified cannabis on the 1st of April from today to tomorrow, all the stigma around cannabis has changed, right? So, and that's what we're seeing in the market. Obviously, there are a few doctors now more willing to prescribe medical cannabis, but not all the doctors will do so, and that's why we need dedicated doctors. We need providers, telemedicine providers that work compliant, that onboard patients in the space, and that's actually what Philip and Sven, I think, agree with me. Otherwise, we will not see the scale. Also, wholesalers, like I've said, are on the platform, not only doctors with the operating system on Bloomwell, not only pharmacists, not only the patient that has basically e-commerce kind of experience on the platform in order to become a patient and get a prescription, get the product delivered to their doorstep. Also, the wholesaler needs APIs to the pharmacy in order to have digital infrastructure with thresholds that they can reorder immediately without, having a phone call or sending faxes around in order to order some product. I think that is the ecosystem Philip was talking about. That is what Bloomwell is, and that is what we have built, and that is most important in order to scale. Sven, great job at Grünhorn for scaling up. I mean, we have been with Grünhorn, we partnered with Grünhorn pretty early stage, helped them build the business, and then we saw that also Grünhorn is running into bottlenecks, and that's why we focused on building a platform of pharmacies, a marketplace, in order to scale that business model. So yes, I believe the market will increase tremendously. That's what we are seeing, but it needs us as an industry. It needs Bloomwell as a platform, and it needs all the participants in order to do so.
Right. Understood.
Regarding
Niklas,
to the second question, Pablo, I still have it in mind around the seeds and about the home grow. I don't see it as a big threat for the medical market, to be honest. Home grow is more a lover's market, and I mean, my father comes from Greece. Everyone cultivates their own grapes in the backyard, and then makes their own wine sometimes, but most of the wine is bought in the supermarkets, right, at the end of the day. So don't see it as a big threat here. If we're talking about seeds, also, yes, it is a business, and we see also an increase in selling seeds, but again, it's connected to home grow. That is something which has a hype now, but I think will normalize over time. Cannabis clubs, highly regulated again, and I expect a conservative shift. And I think we will talk about Pillar 2 in a second, but I expect a conservative shift in 2025. I don't see that cannabis clubs will be a successful model. They're non-profit, no investors can participate, only 500 members, only 50 grams a month maximum. You cannot consume on site, you have to pay membership fees, you have to cultivate on site, very expensive, etc. Germany is an import market, that is important. Germany is an import market when it comes to medical cannabis, and that's where Cantourage, for example, did a great job. And yes, there were a first mover and a great advantage there, but obviously, I mean, the GMP hack, we all know about it, will be a commodity over time. For example, Cureleaf, that's also public, just bought Northern Green in Canada. They're also doing the GMP hub manufacturing, GMP hack, basically, in Canada, bringing lots of product into Germany. So that is something what is great for the market, but will be a commodity over time. Cannabis clubs cannot compete with that. The biggest threat of a medical business, and that's what we're seeing in the US market, is the illicit market. Right, and when we're talking about prices in the illicit market, if we look at California or other states in the U.S., the prices of the illicit market always outperformed the recreational or the medical market. Right, that is not the case in Germany. If we look at prices in pharmacy, and I think Sven can agree with that, we look at a price around 5 to 6 to 4 euros even sometimes for a gram of cannabis. The illicit market price in Germany is 9, 10, sometimes on the countryside even 15 euros. Right. So because Germany is an import market, and because we have also low prices in the medical space, the medical space will not see a threat of the illegal market in Germany and not of the cannabis clubs, because they cannot cultivate on the price point that we are importing products.
Understood. Thank you. Look, I know we've 40 minutes. Go on, Sven.
Pablo, if I may, I would like to add one sentence to what Niklas said. I agree with his assessment on the homegrown market and the social clubs. I would like to add something to the social clubs, which is hardly ever mentioned. All these social clubs need to be run by an individual or by a group of individuals who are personally liable what's happening in the social clubs. And I'm pretty sure that after an initial hype, they will fairly rapidly realize,
like the pharmacies, Sven,
499 other people doing potentially whatever they want, and I am going to be personally liable for that? No way, Jose. So I am with Niklas on that. I expect that social clubs will be a very short-lived hype, and then it's over with them.
All right, no, understood. Look, I know we are 40 minutes into a goal already, but we still have a lot more to cover. I have specific questions for each company, but just on the prediction front, very quickly, Philippe, any thoughts on Pillar 2? How why was it brought forward? And what happens after the next election, right? The Christian Democrats are saying pretty much they're going to cancel the whole program, but just your thoughts there. Brief answer, Philippe, please.
At the end, it remains to be seen. So I'm not super optimistic that we'll see the day of light.
For Pillar 2?
Early days,
for Pillar 2? Yeah.
Pillar 2, I mean, it's a rough outline, it's a rough draft. And now it's assigned to a ministry. But it'll take too long, I'd say. And then the next election is around the corner, 2025. And I also foresee a shift. So the Christian Democrats will get back into power, and they're not big fans of Pillar 2, I'd say. But
they are okay with Pillar 1?
Philippe,
in your opinion, they are okay with Pillar 1? You're saying the Christian Democrats won't reverse Pillar 1, in your opinion?
No, that won't happen, I'd say. But they'll make it really tough, especially on the social clubs, in order to become an active player. At the end of the day, for us in the medical market, I like the current environment. I like the framework. It's highly regulated. It's tough for players to actually enter the market. You're looking at a couple of companies here in this call who are not that unsuccessful these days. So high barriers to entry, and we can further build and scale our businesses. So I'm really happy with the current situation.
Right, Niklas, anything to add?
No need for further change. That's what I'm saying.
Niklas, anything to add on predictions on Pillar 2 and what happens with the next government?
I agree with Philip. I don't see Pillar 2 happening, even though there is some discussion in the press just recently about it maybe happening, without a draft. I don't see that coming. I think that's good PR of some of our market participants. But Pillar 2 for me definitely not happening. Even though, I mean, like I've said and like Philip said, we have re-election next year, conservative shift. There will be no Pillar 2 under the conservatives. Right. So quite pessimistic here.
Right, but Niklas, but you don't think that the new, more conservative government could cancel Pillar 1, reverse the whole program? You don't see that happening?
Interesting question, Pablo. I get that a lot, obviously, these days. Medical cannabis, that's a great thing about medical cannabis. And that's a great thing about medical cannabis deregulation, that across the board and across all parties, they all agree to an easy access to medical cannabis. So we don't see anything changing in the medical framework. We see probably some more pressure. I mean, in Bavaria, they're trying to build kids play places next to social clubs, etc., or cannabis clubs in order to not allow them to happen or to found that cannabis club. I see things of this obviously more critical when it comes to the cannabis clubs, etc., because I think the politics and the conservatives will focus on that part, decriminalization, will focus on the decriminalization, not on the medical cannabis deregulation. That is agreed across all parties.
Understood. Thank you. Look, I'm going to move on to company-specific questions. Sven, for you, in the case of Grünhorn, I'll read the questions to you, and there's a few, but I think you've touched on them some already. What adjustments have you made before and after April 1st? Have you had any problems, website down, inventory issues? How do you think brick-and-mortar pharmacies are coping? I realize you touched on that. What problems do you envision over the next 6 months? Opportunities for you? Any leading brands in your portal that you would highlight, or are market shares volatile month to month? Have you expanded your business to other parts of the value chain? I mean, you had my list of questions, so you know what I'm asking you here, but if you can address all of that, thank you.
I'm going to address all of that in 15 seconds. Our website hasn't gone down. We had to stop taking prescriptions. I believe it was for 1 or 2 days in early April, because we were just flooded with prescriptions like so many others. We still have a significant backlog we're working off, but the quality of prescriptions from incumbents plus new players is improving. So we're making progress. It's been the Wild West for the last 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's going to hold on for another 6 weeks, but after 3 months, I think we should get back into a stable environment. In regard to any specific products on our platform, on our portal, no. We've delisted a couple of companies last year from our portal, and it didn't have any effect on our prescriptions, on our revenue. We anticipate that yes, there will be a market for many flowers. It's kind of like developing into what we see with the wine stores. We're going to be a wine store which is going to offer half a dozen, maybe a dozen of flowers, and we're just going to push out these flowers in high quality. And yes, there's a good business reason for smaller pharmacies to focus on very exclusive or niche products, but on our portal, we can work with the ranking, and we haven't experienced any issues there yet. Remind me of anything else that was of importance to you in that list of questions.
Have you expanded to other parts of the value chain?
Other parts of the value chain. We're not interested in growing for obvious reasons, because there's so many and we can buy anything we want all over the place. There's one area that is of interest, potentially of interest, that is actually telemedicine. In this entire ecosystem, it is vital to have a touch point to the end customer, to the end consumer. Right now, we are the gatekeeper to them. And with the deregulation, the telemedicine platforms have gained power in that regard. So there's a second strong player who's in touch with the end consumer, and that may be of interest to us. A couple of companies have moved into that space. Maybe that's something we're going to do too. But otherwise, we're very well positioned in the pharmacy sector, in the wholesale sector. We don't have any intentions whatsoever to go further back in the value chain to growing.
Right. Interesting. So, I mean, the idea of the clinic telemedicine is because those telemedicine platforms right now are channeling their orders to specific pharmacies, right? So you're missing out on business there. That would be a logic of owning telemedicine?
Well, regulations are very strict on that. So what they do is they offer a couple of pharmacies, or recommend a couple of pharmacies, and beyond that, always leave it to the patient to ultimately decide whether they want to submit their prescription to the pharmacy around the corner, hoping that they have the flower available that they want to have. So telemedicine platforms can't just channel all the prescriptions to a specific pharmacy. That would not be compliant with the regulation. So it is something you have to keep in mind, but it is of interest, that piece of the value chain, because you are very close to the customer, to the patient, and the patient, the customer, is the most important bit in that entire value chain and in the profit pools.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I mean, for those of you listening in, I know I will probably go past the hour. We might go 15 minutes more if you don't mind. Also, my speakers here. I'm going to jump on to Philippe on some questions for Cantourage. But for those of you who want to ask questions, please put them on the chat room or email them to me. But you know, I handle the questions, so I'm not gonna. If anyone raising their hand, please put your question on the chat room. All right, that's the idea. Philippe, in your case, again, what adjustments have you made before and after April 1st? Have you had any problems along the way? Remind us of, well, we talked about your business model and supply chain, competition. Do you plan to bid for a German production license, right? Supposedly, and then under Pillar 1, there will be more licenses to produce in Germany. So just some thoughts on your side, Philippe, on those points. Thank you.
So with regards to cultivation license, so I just mentioned before Cantourage, I was the managing director of Aurora Europe, and I built a cultivation facility in Germany. It's very expensive, and I think it's also very complex to operate. And as Niklas mentioned, Germany is an import country in terms of flower, because there's actually excellent growers out there. I mean, we have, lucky us, we have a few of them under contract. So very, very happy to keep on importing beautiful flowers, especially from Canada, but also from everywhere in the world. No need for the time being, I think, to bid for a cultivation license and then spend cash on building a facility here. I think that's not needed. In terms of what did we do, I'm also of the opinion it's super important to be very close to the patient. Hence, we launched our telemedicine platform in Germany summer last year called Telecan, which is doing quite well. Also helps us to understand market trends, understand patient needs rather quickly. That also informs our decision making in terms of our manufacturing and wholesale business at the end of the day. I thought we did our homework, so we did an extension of our manufacturing hub, and we opened up I think in March, so we tripled capacity. But looks like we're running out of capacity rather sooner than later. So I think that's what we need to work on in the next couple of months to further increase our manufacturing capacity, because on the one hand, the German market is booming, as we just talked about, but us being active in a few other countries, especially our UK business is thriving, and we need to have a hub that can actually supply all our target markets. So still a long way to go for us, for me, to further build out our infrastructure, especially with regards to manufacturing, in order to really scale the business. But as mentioned, so far so good. We're very happy where we currently at, but there's room to grow.
Good, thank you, Philippe. Niklas, questions also for you. What adjustments have you made before and after April 1st? Have you had any problems along the way? For example, not enough doctors. What percentage of revenues come from the clinics at the moment, if you can disclose some of that? Competition, do you know how many dedicated clinics to medical cannabis there are now in Germany? Do you expect more to open and fees to fall for patient prescriptions? And remind us, how are you expanding or plan to expand your business to other parts of the value chain? Thank you, Philippe. I'm sorry, Niklas. Yeah.
A lot of questions, Pablo.
Yeah, but you have my questions.
Okay, first of all, we had a server crash, I think, in the first 2 days after Easter, because of too many requests. We had in the first 2 days 5,000 patients alone that wanted to have a cannabis treatment and requested it. Our servers were not used to that. That is usually, the amount of patients we treated in 2 to 3 weeks before reclassification. So that was quite a big amount. So we had 2 days server crash, teamwork day and night shifts to get it up to speed again. That was fixed after 48 hours. And then it was all about onboarding new doctors. We onboarded 15 new doctors, total 65 now on the platform on Bloomwell. In the last 4 weeks. Then it was all about, after we solved the doctor's bottleneck, it was all about getting no pharmacies onboarded. That's also what we did, expanding the capacity of the pharmacies. I mean, 3 of our pharmacies just signed contracts for new space, 300 to 400 square meters, in order to scale even more. So I think this is a short-term bottleneck in terms of pharmacies, which will change pretty fast, because everybody is increasing capacity at the moment. But now I think we are pretty much well prepared for the next growth. Now, 2 weeks down, May, we already have almost the same numbers than we had in the whole April. So we don't see it downscaling at all. and we keep up the pace because I think we have a responsibility as Bloomwell Group to do so, to grow the market substantially. That's what we are here for, and that's what we have done over the last 4 years. What we have built this model for reclassification with the anticipation of the access to medical cannabis getting easier through deregulation. And it's funny to hear Sven talk about pharmacies being the gatekeeper. I disagree with that, because I think pharmacies just fulfill prescriptions that they're getting, and that's it. And it's also funny to see that Sven is looking for telemedicine, that Philip under Cantourage, congratulations, therefore also has launched a telemedicine clinic for some time now under Telecom. So it's interesting to see that the Bloomwell model is becoming the new gold standard of the industry. But Sven, if you want to save the money, we are also happy to onboard Bloomwell, onboard Grünhorn on the Bloomwell platform, and also Cantourage obviously is welcome anytime. What was the next question, Pablo?
Well, let me just add one sentence to that. Why do we have an interest in telemedicine? Because we have made the experience that even incumbent players in that space very frequently have an inferior quality in the prescriptions. And there are so many clearings with current telemedicine platforms that are just extremely annoying in order to build efficiency. And for that reason, there is a need in the market to have a fully compliant, high quality digital prescription process. We don't see that in the market right now. There are so many clearing cases every single day with all the telemedicine providers in Germany right now. It's a nuisance for us, and that's why we consider to go into the market, because we understand the requirements of the pharmacies, etc. And for that reason, we are considering to set up a best of class telemedicine platform.
What do you mean with peering issues, Sven?
Querfälle.
Okay.
We get prescriptions from all kinds of pharmacies, also pharmacies in this room, with them prescribed medications, flowers that simply do not exist. And that is I don't know what these doctors do. It would be so easy for them to check on livestock sites of pharmacies what flowers exist, what flowers are available.
Yeah.
But for some reason,
100% agree.
For some reasons, certain doctors, certain telemedicine platforms do not get a hand on that. And that makes it extremely inefficient for both the doctor and the pharmacy. And that needs to be taken care of. So far, nobody seems to have taken care of that. There is a huge need, in particular when we all agree on the bottleneck for the output capacity in the entire German market. All of us need to make sure that this current bottleneck, that we cut through the knot in order to increase capacity.
Couldn't agree more, Sven. Couldn't agree more.
Philip, you want to jump in on that? Sorry, Niklas. Go on, Niklas. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on.
Quick remark on my side, Sven. This is great that you're saying that, and that is exactly what we have built on the Bloomwell, and that is exactly what's not happening under the Bloomwell umbrella. We have developed the first medical cannabis individualized, customized prescription mask for doctors, where you equivalently see, or in real time see, what is availability in the pharmacies. Is the product on stock? If they use this prescription mask and everyone is using it on the platform, basically, they cannot prescribe product which is not available. First of all, they cannot prescribe wrong product which is not existing in the market. And also, if for some reason this product is not available, there is a very quick digital way in order to adjust that prescription with the doctor. When the pharmacy says no, on our platform, we don't have that product, the prescription goes back digitally. within seconds gets adjusted and you can fulfill the order. So with Bloomwell, you wouldn't have these problems, Sven.
That would be good.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Look, I mean, I know we are already past the hour here. I want to, before I end the conversation with closing remarks from each one of you, just a question in terms of market share numbers. I know that, we have some data out there, not all reliable, but, and maybe for you, Sven, given you are on the pharmacy side, what I hear is that there's pretty reliable data for the reimbursed market, right? That Tilray's #1 in extracts in the reimbursed market. That in the reimbursed market, in terms of flower, consistently Aurora and 420 Pharma tend to be the top 2 players there in flower in the reimbursed market. In the case of the cash market, I hear the data is not reliable and it's very volatile. So someone can say they have 23% market share 1 month, but the next month it can be very different. So the cash market shares are very volatile. But again, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's what I'm told. Any quick thoughts that you might want to share there, Sven, and Philippe and Niklas want to answer quickly also. But again, it's just, from the perspective of, the companies that we cover, we're just trying to understand, brand presence and brand market share consistency. Quick thoughts, Sven, on that.
I already said something to that early on. The only reliable number or figure is the BfArM figure.
Yeah, but I'm talking about market share. So I'm aware on the volume numbers. Yeah, about
so
5
I can only talk about our market share because I know what we report to BfArM and I see the total number. And if I look at that, our market share has increased quarter by quarter. And in Q3, the last available quarter, we had more than 20% of the amount of flowers purchased by pharmacies. That is the only number I can put on the table.
Okay, understood. Philippe, any comments on the brand side, on the assessment that I made about the reliability of the data of brands?
Maybe just real quick, as we're talking about flower all the time, and just briefly talked about extracts. I mean, at the end of the day, there's still an API market where Cantourage is one of the market leader, if not the market leader. And the hard figure I can share, I mean, last year we did 24 million euros in revenue, which should put us maybe, in the top 3 at the least in Germany. And it's not all coming from Dronabinol, our API business. We do have also a stronghold on the flower market, but our portfolio rather caters to the private patients, the out-of-pocket payers. But there's lots of figures floating around. Obviously working for Cantourage, I think we're also in terms of the flower, not one of the smaller players.
Okay.
And we do have a house of brand. So we're launching flower under the brands of our cultivation partners. It's a Grünhorn, Lot 420, Plantas Monsteres, All Nations. So maybe it doesn't look like it from the outside because the brand is different, but it all comes via Cantourage.
Right. Thank you. Niklas, anything to add on the brand, on the market shares at the brand level?
Yeah, I have a very clear opinion on that. I don't believe that there's any brand out there till now. And even though, I mean, we can talk about 2023 numbers, but I mean, they're completely irrelevant to the topic. We have reclassification since 1st of April. It's a new market, completely new market. 95% of the patients or of the new customers will become customers now or will become patients now with deregulation. So there's no brand existent in the market till now. That is just a false statement, right?
Okay.
Brands are made now since of the 1st of April. That's why market share last year, nobody cares. I know that Philip has to say that because they're a listed company and that's fine. And congratulations to the market share and to the revenue you've made. But at the end of the day, 2024 is the year that counts. And we will see brands popping up like we have seen. Like I think we that is most important. And that is where I need to make my remark is you need touch points with the customers. You need a D2C approach in order to build a brand that is most important for everyone out there. And that's why we have built Bloomwell the way we have built it, because brands are visible when the customer has a touch point with the brand. No wholesaler out there, and that is like 98% of the German cannabis market, can ensure that they have a brand out there. They couldn't ensure that before. They can't ensure that now because the pharmacy, and Sven knows that, particularly has to repackage the product under law in new containers, so you will never have a brand out there. You need touch points with the customers, and that is how a brand gets built, and that is what will be built from 1st of April on, with 95% being new customers, and don't have a clue who is Cantourage, or who is Medical, or who is Sanity Group, Avai, or whoever in the market. That's why it's most important to have a D2C approach, end-to-end approach, that the customer goes through the whole journey on your platform, and that the customer experience the brand, because we see it. I mean, at the end of the day, doesn't matter for which pharmacy sends it, doesn't matter from which wholesaler it comes, the customer calls us, right? Or the patient calls us and asks, okay, this is the Bloomwell product, this is the product I received from Bloomwell, etc. So, you know, the brand recognition is made at the touch points and not on the container.
All right, thank you. Look, I know you've taken a long time here. I very much appreciate your time availability, and of course our audience here. Closing remarks from each of you. As you make your closing remarks, please talk about any predictions about what may happen in other European markets, and maybe briefly remind us of your plans or existing operations or businesses in other markets in Europe. I'm going to start with you, Philippe, but again, thank you for being here, and closing remarks and answer to those questions.
Yeah, as just mentioned, there's lots of European medical markets we're currently active in. I mean, most important ones for us, besides Germany, is the UK. Also, yeah, active in other markets at the end of the day. I mean, they're all growing heavily, trying to support those different markets and ride the wave at the end of the day, while keeping a close eye on Germany, because here it's where most of the growth will come from this year.
Yeah, thank you. Sven?
Not very much to add. We spoke about the enormous challenges and opportunities we have in Germany, and the need to really build the market in Germany. So our focus is clearly going to be on Germany. We do have an eye on some neighboring countries, but our focus is clearly on Germany, and to make sure that we address the needs and the demand of the 5 to 7 million people Niklas mentioned. That's also the addressable market that we see, and there is so much to do in order to build a supply chain all the way to meet their demands.
Right. So Niklas, thank you, Sven. Niklas, same question for you, maybe as you close also. Is there an issue with clinics outside of Germany serving German patients? Like, can I have an online clinic in Croatia and be issuing prescriptions for Germany, or that's not allowed? And again, closing remarks, Niklas. Thank you.
I haven't seen that so far, that the clinic is registered in Croatia or somewhere else. But I mean, I don't think it is possible on a regulatory framework, and giving you patient data. I mean, this is very valuable data, first of all, and second of all, it needs to be highly secured through data protection laws. Giving it to a company in Croatia or in Cyprus or whatever, I don't know if a lot of patients want to do that. I wouldn't do so, so would not recommend that. Obviously, as Bloomwell, we see two markets that we want to address in the European Union. We don't see UK as a very attractive market, so disagree with Philip there. I think it's a pretty small market that is not developing pretty well. But we have two other markets in place. I will not disclose them now, but I think what we are seeing in Germany now will be the blueprint for other countries to follow, obviously, in the European Union. And we will see a domino effect, other countries adjusting to the laws that Germany has implemented now. We will see deregulation in medical cannabis, and that is where Germany is taking a key position now, or a key leader, will be the key leader in the future. So it will be interesting to expand, obviously, the Bloomwell model. We are a tech platform, strictly tech, very asset-light, so we can basically roll out the Bloomwell model to empower all stakeholders in every single EU country if we want to, or in other countries. That's not the issue for us, and we are targeting two countries in Europe right now. But focus is now also for us, and agree with my colleagues. 84 million inhabitants, Germany becoming the biggest medical cannabis market in the world. around 5 to 7 million patients need to be onboarded. That's what we want to do. We are highly focused on increasing our potential as Bloomwell, and we want to serve more than 100,000 patients by the end of this year on the Bloomwell platform. And we are bearish and increasing capacity regarding this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much to all the three speakers. Of course, very exciting times in Germany. I appreciate your insights. We will keep a close eye in terms of what's happening. And again, good luck to all three of you. And thank you to our audience for joining. Sorry we went so long over past the hour. Everyone, have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.